Matthew chapter 16, verse 5 through to 20. Two parts to Jesus' reading today, with Jesus warning the disciples about the teaching of the Pharisees. And then we've got this very famous confession of Peter at Caesarea Philippi. And with this with this first section, we've just had a conflict between Jesus and the Pharisees. Yesterday's reading and before, tensions are building. And I just wonder why Jesus had to warn his disciples about the teaching of the Pharisees. And I think that's because the truth is we all have to pay attention to the voices around us speaking into our lives. We have to pay attention to what we input. Ideas here are described by Jesus as yeast in the dough. This tiny, almost invisible thing that influences and impacts and expands through the dough. I think that's very much how ideas work in society. In fact, today, the original meaning of the word meme, a unit of cultural transfer. Ideas that catch on and transfer between people through culture. So I think there's a challenge very much for us today to pay attention to what is inputted into our lives, the ideas we receive. And then we've got this section at Caesarea Philippi, a place that was well known as a godless town. Originally a retreat type of place in the ancient world because of its beauty, its waterfalls, its springs, but it had become party central, where the deity Pan was worshipped. And I'm not entirely sure why the section of this story is set here, why Jesus took his disciples here. Some people say it makes sense because it links to the underground caves of Pan, known as the gates of hell. Some say that the rocky outcrops in the area would have mirrored the nickname given to Peter, the Rock. But it's in this place that Jesus starts an almost casual conversation with his disciples. Guys, who do you say that I am? Peter's response was absolutely on the money. But he's not praised for getting the answer right. He's praised for receiving revelation. And for me, this shows us the essence and the purpose of revelation. Firstly, to illuminate who Jesus is. Peter says, "You are the Christ." Secondly, to illuminate who we are in the light of who Jesus is. Jesus says, "And you are Peter, the rock." There's also a sense of purpose being revealed here in this revelation. The purpose of Jesus to build his church and the purpose of us, his disciples. I would say that purpose is best summarized in the phrase disciple making. It's about commission. It's about authority. As we see here, it's about binding and loosing. In other words, bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth, bringing the will of heaven, of the Father, to earth. Jesus builds his church. We advance the kingdom as we make disciples. And it says, the gates of Hades will not overcome this. The forces of hell will not hinder Jesus building his church. And what I love about this imagery, it seems that Jesus has almost picked the most godless spot possible to say it. Pan's Caves, Caesarea Philippi. And I love that the imagery is the gates of hell, because gates are there to be stormed. Gates don't attack you, you advance on gates. We advance on the gates, we storm them. No wonder then that Jesus reminds his disciples of the authority that has been given to them, the authority given to us. And I often say, just using that reflex imagery, that power reflexes out of right authority and right identity. We have to see ourselves as God sees us, as the devil sees us in actual fact, in our royal identity, and to live in that identity, to exercise that authority. And I pray you would have an exciting day doing that this day as you advance the kingdom and make disciples.